Hey, what's going on, guys? Vince14 here. In today's video, we're going to be talking about uh, my Ford Mustang, which is ironic because in the last video that I made 28 minutes ago, I talked about Ford F-150s while driving a Mustang that kind of mimics the Mustang that I have in real life. Now we're going to be talking about the Mustang driving an F-150, and I've never actually bought this vehicle in this game, so I'm going to customize it first. And I'm going to listen to it and do shit like that. So there's going to be a little bit of a detour, kind of like reviewing this vehicle while I'm at it. But, first thing is, I got to click back into here. Wow, there's audio now. So this video is about my Mustang. And to start, I want to talk about how I acquired it and how life is. And then we'll get into why I'm ranting about it, and why right now I have to make a video about it. So, the story of how I got it is a very simple story. I'm looking on Marketplace for cars, and I have the budget set to 0 to 1500. And I have a specific taste of cars, especially in that shitbox area. I was looking for a Cobalt SS or an RX-8 or, something sporty, something that's been in a Need for Speed pretty much, or, a Mustang. I wanted it to be a standard. That was my one prerequisite. On top of that was a stick shift. I didn't care if the SS was supercharged or turbocharged. I didn't care if the Mustang was a GT or not. Just wanted a stick shift. I was learning stick shift. I find a Mustang. It looked pretty cool, and it was a V6 5-speed, so it reminded me of my dad's in a manner of speaking. Although his was the next model up. This is an SN95 New Edge, and my dad's was an S197, a 2005 versus a 2000 to be specific. My problem was I had 1250, so I contacted them and I said, listen, I only have 1250, can I do that? Can I work with you on that? And that was kind of like my hitting them with a low ball and seeing if they'd budge or anything. And they said, immediate reply, I didn't have to haggle or nothing, they said, come down and pay 1,000 for it. I was like, well, shit, they're giving me a deal of a lifetime pretty much. That's 500 bucks off what they wanted for it. And to be truthful, I didn't even have 1250. I had to come down the next day and get it. But I had like 700 bucks. So I was waiting for my next check to come before I actually bought anything. I was going to work on negotiations. I had a couple days to get my check, so I wasn't expecting. But I work it all out. I talked to my grandparents, I talked to my parents, shit like that, get it figured out, get the money around, buy the Mustang. We go down there, and the description of the Marketplace listing said that the exhaust fell off, the door shut right, and he was tired of messing with it. And he was literally like, get this fucking thing away from me, pretty much. And I was like, awesome. This guy doesn't want it, and it's probably some simple shit. Well, so far, it really has been. The guy had a lot of redneck shit going on in there. The intake was held up by a oil container because he didn't have it put on correctly. It was literally sitting in the engine bay. The factory intake on those Mustangs is a cold air intake, and it was a hot air intake because it was literally sitting where the knuckle would bend into the fender, and it was just sitting there. There was no knuckle. So he had a hot air intake, which was reducing horsepower and reducing the mass airflow sensor readings and shit like that. So, what I finally did, like, this is literally 6 months after the fact, I finally got that cold air intake back in it. And for the price of going factory, I can get an aftermarket one. So I wound up getting a fancy one with a high flow air filter and bigger induction and shit. And it added a couple of horsepower. It sounds even better now. And honestly, one of the things as well as with the vehicle is it vibrates like crazy. I'm thinking bad throw bearing or engine mounts or something. But interestingly, putting on an appropriate intake and having it bolted down properly reduced honestly a lot of the vibration of the vehicle. So that's nice. But the problem that I'm having is I can't seem to figure out where the actual source of the vibration is coming from, and shit's gradually getting worse on it. So, I mean, for one, the oil pan is JB welded, and for the uninitiated, what that means is the guy used fake metal, like literally putty, to he blew a hole in the oil pan or something, and he used fake metal putty to plug that hole up. And it also seems like he reinforced it with a sheet of metal and then covered it with the JB weld. Because when I took a magnet to the oil pan, none of it's magnetic except for that one chunk where the JB weld is. That's cool. The transmission also has a bit of JB weld on like a plug or something, but that hasn't caused me trouble yet. The guy said the exhaust fell off. It was very loud with the exhaust off, so they were definitely right about that. But I had it welded up by someone I know, and it really wasn't that bad, so that's fine. Although it keeps snapping. Because this is a V engine, both banks have different exhaust outlets that'll either meet in the middle or cross over, and you have dual exhaust, shit like that. But in this case, they both meet in the middle for an H pipe. It's actually more, well, no, a Y pipe, actually, I think is the right term. But it literally comes down off of the V engine like this, and then it meets in the middle, and then it goes to a single exhaust pipe out the side of my Mustang. And it's a cherry bomb muffler that the guy has on it. So we got that all welded together, and it's still loud, but I kind of like it. But you can't tell people that because V6 Mustangs are gay, so fuck me. But that JB weld in the oil pan is leaking. The oil plug is leaking, either because the washer's bad, or the plug's bad, or the threads are bad. Something's bad. Well, I have a brand new oil pan with a dipstick and shit. I mean, a brand new oil pan with a drain plug and shit. But the problem is, to be able to get the oil pan out, you have to drop the K-member and support the engine and shit. It's a whole nightmare. So I'll get that done one day. Also, valve covers leak, I'm pretty sure. The spark plug gaskets are leaking because when I start the vehicle, it burns off a bit of oil. And sometimes it runs a little rough because that spark plug's getting drowned in oil or whatever. I'll have to fix that one day. Let's see. Oh. Can't seem to think right now. Okay, what have I talked about already? Shit's leaking. Right? We got a leaky teacup. We got a little shit can leak gamer. Sorry, I'm just focused on upgrading the vehicle. Yeah, the valve cover gasket's leaking, spark plug boots are leaking, so there's leaking a lot of oil, but they're all kind of very small leaks. They drip enough, they kind of seep out enough that the bottom's coated in oil, but I really don't lose that much oil in a day. Like, when I bought it, I had the oil topped off because it was like a quart low, and I haven't topped off the oil, and it was fine. It was still on the dipstick, everything was fine, and just recently I changed the oil, and it's, you know, I haven't had to check it, it's been fine. So, and I haven't had to monitor the oil other than regular maintenance, which is nice. And that probably means that I might be able to get it through inspection without it dripping on the floor, because if it doesn't drip on the floor, it doesn't fail a state inspection, so I might be able to get away with that, which is nice. But I'm not going to make any promises until I know for sure. But there's a lot of vibration in it, and I think it's got to be an engine mount. When you start at the engine, again, this is a V engine, so I'll just do this. It starts and it goes like this, and it vibrates really bad, and you're sitting in the cabin, and it vibrates, and if you put it up at idle, it has that vibration, but it's not really that bad. And then as you rev it up, it's okay at $2,000, and then at $3,000 and $4,000, it's like the worst, and it goes really bad and really fast. And then as it's coming out of $4,000 and towards $5,000, which is red line, it is the smoothest vehicle ever. So that might even be like a bad harmonic balancer, but I haven't taken the belts off to check for play in any of the pulleys at all. So I don't know if it's a bad harmonic balancer, but we did check the mounts and they all seem solid, so maybe it is the bad harmonic balancer, but I haven't heard any squeaking, I haven't seen anything that would hint it, but I should take it off and check for play. Not done that yet, but it kind of just crossed my mind talking about it, so maybe talking about shit is going to be like a weekly thing now, I don't know. Let's see. Oh, the speakers, the sound system, that guy had that totally jigged. He had... There's a power wire that runs into the dash from the radio. That's an aftermarket Bluetooth radio. I mean, this is a 2000 Mustang, so most people would do that just so they get a Bluetooth capability. But it's wired in straight to ignition power. And then on top of ignition power, though, it has a constant power, and it's wired right to the battery. And for a while, when we bought... Oh, that's another thing I totally forgot. When we bought it, had a giant truck battery in it. And he said it had issues starting. And part of that was because the terminals were fucked. So my dad got a new battery and new terminals. But this old battery was literally pressing up against the radiator cap. It had an indent like this. Like, this. If this is the radio cap... The battery was literally pushing into it like this the whole time. Had an indent on the battery when we gave it away. So, that's funny as fuck. But... but yeah, we put a new battery in and it's fine, but we didn't put that constant power back in, and everything really seemed fine. But I did notice that after dangling around, we chased it down, found out it was to the radio, we plugged it back in, and in the Mustang, the front speakers don't work. The rear speakers work fine, the fronts don't. When we plugged this in properly, everything was louder, first of all, and I got the driver's side speaker to work. Passenger side speaker was still roached, still didn't work, probably just dead. Plain old dead. That was a funny revelation. There's also a lot of shit just hanging out, like I found in the passenger side beside the glove compartment, just dangling. You could see it if you looked for it. There are two connectors. One looks like an antenna wire, and the other one I have no clue. They're just hanging there. It also has sequential taillights, so this is a Mustang, so it has the the 3 in a row lights kind of thing going on, and it's supposed to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and it's supposed to go sequential when you turn on the turn signal or your four ways or whatever. The right side does it fine, the passenger side. And then the left side, the driver's side, does 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. So there, someone told me to change the resistor and the wiring, but I can't be fucking bothered. I don't like wiring, and I'm not going to sit there and play with resistors when it's basically functional. It also doesn't have any dome lights or map lights in there, so no lights in the interior at all. When you open the doors or need to see shit, you have to use your phone or whatever. I recently just wired up an LED light strip because my theme color for the interior is blue. I just got some blue LEDs. The interior lights, I also made sure that they could switch so that I could have white ones as well, so that you can just see plain old light. And then the instrument cluster, the thing that shows your mileage and your speed and shit like that, the gauges all work. The lights light up for mileage, for brakes, for tire pressure, for all the lights and shit, but the actual lights that illuminate the instruments on the cluster do not work. I cannot, when it's dark out, without additional light, like I wired up some dash lights or like shining your phone or whatever, without additional light, You cannot see your speed, how much gas you have, how high you're revving, stuff like that. You cannot see any of that. It is not illuminated. And because it's an older vehicle, you have to manually turn on the headlights. And how you turn on the headlights is also, you pull it out, and it's DRLs, daytime running lights, just your normal on lights. Then you pull it out again, that's headlights. And then you move your stalk like a normal vehicle for high and low beams. But that knob, you twist it left to dim and right to illuminate. Fun fact though, not my problem, because I tried that. The other thing that I mentioned earlier was the guy complained that the door stopped working and it doesn't shut. And that is correct. The hinge is broken. What he wound up doing is he wired up, well, screwed in a door hinge, like a normal locking door hinge that you would find in a house, like it up, right, down, like just a crossover style, like deadbolt style hinge or whatever. And that's how you get in and out of the vehicle, which means you have to roll the window down, unbracket yourself, roll the window up, take the key out, get out, shut the door, pin the door against it so it doesn't like lose tension, and then you have to up over lock every time. It's annoying and not so fun, but what can you do? Gonna fix it one day, but it's just not on the list of priorities because it doesn't make the vehicle wear down any faster or anything, so I'm just putting it on the sidelines. My comfort is less important than the lifetime of the vehicle. I replaced the front shocks already, and it needed brakes. There was a frozen caliper. It was doing some funny shit. I replaced all of that. I put new spark plugs in it because it was running like shit one day at work, and we fixed it. Thank God. Also, because of this excess wear and tear on the exhaust, because of all the vibrations and shit, and the rusting basically, the flange broke off of the where the exhaust mounts to the headers on the manifold. My friend fixed it up, polished it up, welded it, cut some shit out. It was actually a very impressive job. So I'm happy that that happened. But with all of that stuff figured out, we still have a handful of glaring issues, and that the first one is, and this guy, first of all, when he did the test drive, he made it look effortless. He did it flawlessly. I mean, I do that now, pretty much, like I'm used to it. But he's like, oh, I used to do street racing with this. Oh, I used to do street racing in my Nissan Maxima. Oh, I'm a dump truck driver, stuff like that. This guy, there was literally like 4.5 inches of play in the steering shaft. We found it to be a bad intermediate shaft. It was further up on the steering shaft where the U-joint is. They were both failing. The intermediate shaft that meets the shaft of the rack and the U-joint on the shaft. Both were failing. We fixed the connection on the intermediate shaft, but we didn't realize that it was not the problem. So there was still play, and it was because of the universal joint, the U-joint, further up at the top, the knuckle. So, you know, such is life, but we got it half fixed. It's better now. But he made it look so easy. He just drove it around. He's all like, "You like going fast, and you nervous people or whatever." And then he just guns it around this road, and he's doing 70, 75. He's ripping it around stuff, and he's talking about it. And then we go home, go back to the Dollar General we were doing this meetup at, and we made the deal, and I bought it. And then my dad realized just how bad the alignment was. He was like, "Holy shit." The seats are not what's meant to be in there. It has cloth seats that don't fit, and they are not bracketed in properly. The driver's seat sits like this. So if you think like, let's just say dead onto you, dead onto the steering wheel, I'm like this. The seat sits like this. Because the actual like back tips like this. It's more like that, yeah. The way that it looks to you right now. And that's because this guy was literally like 7 feet tall, so that's like his arm on the center console, reaching for the shifter and stuff. He's sitting like this. This is comfortable for him, not comfortable for a normal human being. But I drove it a little bit. I learned how to drive stick. I've been driving it back and forth to work almost every day. I've been working on it really hard. One day I'm going to get a Matco paint job, and I'm going to paint it competition red, I think is the term. Or cherry red or something like that. But it's a red almost like what's on this truck right now that we're using. And I want to do the opposite of what my dad's car was, which was a mix of the Boss 302 and Laguna Seca designs. And he wants, he had it blue. The vehicle was a Sonic Blue Mustang with white decal. And I'm going to do, you know, the iconic red, whatever that was. I'm pretty sure it's competition red or cherry red. I want to do a red with black stripes of the same design. I think it would be a good homage. I think it would be fair. It's my V6 5-speed. It was his V6 5-speed. It's, you know, cool that way. But I got to fix these leaks in this steering shaft issue, and the shock towers in the front are rotted out. There's holes peppered throughout it. It's not structurally damaged. It's not rotted all the way through. Those holes are like the spots they rotted out, and the rust hasn't spread yet, so that's good. But I gotta fix it one day here soon. I also need rear shocks, and I bought rear wheel bearings and a pinion seal thinking I needed them, but the rear wheel bearings I did not need. It was because it wasn't centered on the lugs right. And then the pinion seal, I do need. I also probably need a diff cover or diff gasket. I'm not sure how that works, but the rear diff has some grease developing on it. It's not just from the pinion seal that I mentioned before, which is the pinion seal is where the drive shaft meets into the rear differential. And the diff cover is that little back plate that you see that covers up the gears, the internal workings of it. What else? It had torn wiper blades. I just put new wiper blades in it. It has a broken cowl. I bought a cowl, but I have not put it on. And the cowl is the plastic thing where the wiper blades sit. Like, it's what connects the hood to the rest of the vehicle, basically. You know, when you're looking at it, it's that thing that the wipers are coming out of. Right after the hood. There is some there's some rust on the rear wheel well that the guy must have bonded over and then didn't paint. It's starting to get some pitting working its way through, and it's kind of bubbling a little bit, so I want to bring that back down to its base and fucking onto it properly at the very least. And then when it gets painted competition red, it'll look fine, I'm sure. I want to get another set of rear tires, rims for it. Right now it has the bullet style rims. So, just to demonstrate, because I can. Oh, never mind. It's not open, and I'm too lazy to do it. So, right now it has some bullet style rims, which I guess I'll demonstrate in the game. But I have to find them, of course. And what I want to do is I want to buy a set of Saleen style rims, which look something like this, and put winter tires on them so that I can have like road tires and winter tires for that Mustang. With the road tires being the bullet style, I prefer them over the Saleen. But I just wanted to do something different. Huh. They ain't gonna be here. They're gonna be in the Specialized. Yeah, this is it pretty much. I mean, bullet style rims are slightly different, but that's the concept. But what else? Yep, so because of the way that we fixed the steering shaft, we welded the rack and pinion to the intermediate shaft to stop the play there, and then the U-joint's still bad up top. But because of that, I need a new rack too. So I bought a new rack with inner tie rods, and I bought a new steering shaft because it was faulty as well. And so new steering shaft and rack with inner tie rods. I might as well get the outer tie rods. And then I had one stabilizer link or sway bar link that was damaged, so I bought the other sway bar link or stabilizer link. So I'm going to have literally a brand new front end when all of that's done and said for. That's going to be crazy. And then finally the worst part, which I kind of, I guess, repressed. I don't even know, because it was literally the whole point of me making this video. I made a video recently that said, like, 3.8 dipstick. And that's because on the, at least the 1999 to 2004 3.8 liter V6, the dipstick tube is actually very hard to find. And a lot of people have problem with it in forums. There's no pictures, no diagrams. The one video on the internet of it is someone showing you where the dipstick tube is on an engine that's out with the heads off. That does not help anyone at all. I bought a borescope for $130 from AutoZone. Rented it. I haven't returned it yet because I'm waiting because of the spark plugs in my dad's F-150 that are still fucked up. It is impossible to find. There's no way on God's green earth you're just supposed to be able to pull that out and put it back in whenever you need to, like, maintenance it or it breaks or anything like that, like you have an issue or anything like that. And then even with it out, it wasn't pouring oil out of it, which is really weird because that's supposed to. I couldn't find a trail of oil. I couldn't find anything. It was really dumb. So that was cool. The dipstick broke off at the end of it, which is why I pulled it out and I replaced it. And then I found that the dipstick tube was loose, and then I actually pulled the dipstick tube out, and it was a whole fucking nightmare. I bought a new dipstick, but I didn't buy a new dipstick tube because I thought the dipstick tube would have been alright, but then we went and got a dipstick tube. But what it needs is the bracket so it doesn't fall back out. And then the chunk of dipstick that broke off, it's somewhere in the engine. I can't find it. It didn't come out in the oil change. I can't drop the oil pan because you have to raise the engine and drop the K-member, and then at the point you might as well replace the drain pan. Nightmare. There's a reason that Ford stands were found on road dead, and that's because that's how it was found with that F-150. Found on the road dead. Also, I didn't say this in the F-150 video, but apparently the 5.43 valves, like my dad's F-150, are the shittiest fucking engines to be able to pull fucking spark plugs out from. So that's cool. You have to, they used to be a two-piece thing, and now they're a one-piece thing, and then they used to be a half cab, now they're a total cab, a full cab, and they take literally like fucking hundreds of foot-pounds of torque while warm to fucking pull off. So that's cool. I didn't even talk about the F-150 in the last video. My dad's F-150. He has a black 2006 Ford F-150 FX4 with four-wheel drive and a 4-speed automatic Jasper rebuilt transmission. It has a 4-inch lift because it's the FX4, and it has fancy suspension, fancy exhaust, no CAD, stuff like that. It's all cool. It was an awesome vehicle, but he wound up being poor for a while, so he had to delete the rear brakes. He had to disconnect the calipers, and then he had only the front brakes, and now all the brakes are roached, and then also the manifold blew apart the gasket, so now the gasket on the manifold is ruined, so it blows exhaust gas that's really hot out of the manifold and right into the engine bay and also towards the driver. And not only is that bad for the driver because of inhaling exhaust fumes, but we just noticed recently that he is disintegrating the wiring and the hoses that are on that side of the engine, and one of them is the evap purge valve hoses, which evap purge goes clean from the front of the engine to the back where the gas tank is because it's taking the evap and it's purging it. And if it opens that hose up and you put one of those combustion with some of that fire that's coming out of the engine down that line and cause a chain reaction of those vapors and light it up on fire, you're going straight to the gas tank and you're going straight to hell. So that's a really cool design. I'm glad that Ford did everything that they did because Ford's totally awesome. As a guy who loves Mustangs and has a heritage of Mustangs and likes the F-150 that's out here and enjoys the F-150s that we have, and my grandfather has an F-150 and everything. Fuck Ford, dude. I'm just saying. The two Chevys, well, if you count the older Trailblazer, my dad had a Trailblazer 2002, almost brand new. Thing was awesome. I had a blast with it, but apparently the engine blew up in it because of my mom's fault or something. Now, my girlfriend 2 or 3 years ago bought a 2007 Chevy Trailblazer, and it's been a badass this whole time. It's had problems, it's had shit go down, but it's always been the one that I could rely on. It took us back and forth to work, it took everyone back and forth to work. It dominates the winter, dominates the mud, dominates the snow, dominates dirt, dominates gravel, everything. And it's got a good handful of issues, but someone said this once, and I live by it. GM engines run like shit more than most engines run. That thing has 200,000 miles, and I could probably get 200,000 more out of it as long as I take care of it. It's stupid. I can do the same thing with these Fords out here, but the problem is taking care of it involves me having to rebuild the entire engine anytime anything goes wrong because you have to fucking take everything apart to get to stuff. Ignorant. I haven't even finished fucking around with this vehicle, so I guess I'll just make my third video while I fuck around with this vehicle. Next one's gonna be about my job.